Welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Today's special is Eric Martin, singer of Mr. Big.
Quiet on the set.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to
Hello, welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. I'm Anna, with me is my co-host Dan, and today we have a very special guest. You may know him as the lead singer of Mr. Big, with hits like To Be With You, Wild World, and so many more. Joining us is the one, the only, Eric Martin!
Yeah! Welcome to the show.
Wow. Wow. I feel so good. I feel so pumped right now. God, this is like probably one of the best threesomes I've ever been in.
See, it's like you just walked into the room and you have an announcement team. Everyone knows that you walked in the room just because the two of us are like, it's Eric Martin.
I know. Like, okay, so what did I do?
Yeah, right. Well, how are you today?
I'm actually pretty good. I brought my kids to school. My wife is on a run or bicycling or climbing a mountain or something like that. And I got the whole house to myself. I feel good. I'm in my music room right now. I'm in Marin County, California. The whole room is covered with clothes and
nice.
and gear that I'm going to take to Japan. I'm going to do a promotional tour in Japan with the Bigs and just kind of gearing up for that.
You must love Japan. Japan loves you. I heard that. Like, you guys are big in Japan. The song was pretty much just written about you, big in Japan.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah. The thing about Mr. Big, we campaigned for years in Japan. I mean, this is it in a nutshell. Okay. Where people ask me all the time about, like, what is it about Japan? And I think what it was is that Billy Sheehan, our bass player, our illustrious bass player, went over to Japan in 1988 and sort of told people that, I got this band with Paul Gilbert and Eric Martin and Pat Torpey, and it's going to be great. And, blah, 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 campaign, vote for me, I'll set you free. And then in 1989, we went over there and we played really small clubs, and we had a really good time. Now, a lot of bands who go to Japan, they always go, oh man, it was like the Beatles, and they have a great time, but they never come back, and we kept coming back. It cost a lot of dough, cost a lot of yen to keep going back and forth to Japan. And so we just kept going there. And then when, I don't remember what year or, what exact date, but when the musical climate changed in the United States, a lot of bands just kind of fell off the edge of the world, or they just kind of tried to struggle it out in North America.
Right.
And Japan opened its doors, or opened its loving arms, for us. We kept going there, and we grew up with these kids. It was like kind of one big happy family. They've been keeping the Mr. Big dream alive. So Japan, I mean, they're a loyal rock and roll country. There's no
awesome.
Radio does dictate, especially here. They tell you what to wear and tell you what to listen to and all that. But in Japan, it's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more. There's a lot more diversity, and rock is still king.
Yeah, I heard that in Japan they have much more of an appreciation still for rock.
They do, and what's not?
Yeah.
I don't really. There's been sort of there's evolutions, but it's been full circle. It's still a foundation of rock and roll, and they still wear their black T-shirts with Van Halen and AC/DC on it, and Deep Purple and all that. So where some of us, I don't know where you're calling me from, but some of us have those black T-shirts hanging up in a closet collecting dust.
I was gonna say, you just named all the vitamins every growing boy needs.
Right on.
But I was going to ask, how did Mr. Big get started, and where did that name come from?
Well, actually, Billy Sheehan was in the band with David Lee Roth.
Right.
And they were doing great, like this is the MTVs of the middle 80s and late 80s, and he was doing great, but something happened, some kind of a shake up there, and he left the band and wanted to start his own rock and roll band, and now, he lives in Los Angeles.
Right.
And through, I could do the long story. I'm trying to I'll talk faster to make it a shorter story so we can get to other shit.
Okay.
But we have this mutual friend, this guy named Mike Varney, who's kind of a guitar headhunter. He discovered many, many guitar players, that we love and listen to all the time. So Billy called up Mike and asked him about, getting a singer. Does he know anybody? And ironically, this is a couple of conversations that he had. And so the second or third one, he called Mike, and Mike's notorious for putting people on conference calls where they don't know they're on conference calls, which sneaky and very covert and very Watergate sounding. So, sneaky bastard. So that's right, Billy was on the phone, and he called me up. And he said, "Hey, have you heard of Billy Sheehan before?" And I go, "Yeah, is that the colorful character that wears all the wacky clothes with David Lee Roth?" And and he's a monster bass player, man. Look at that wild blonde hair, and and it just the guy's I was just painting this picture. I think it was pretty positive, but it was a lot bigger than I was. I was just struggling little R&B singer for in the Bay Area. But I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah. Would you consider being in a band with this guy? And I go, well, I don't know. And he goes, yeah, talk to him yourself. And Billy gets on the phone. He goes, hello. He's got this really dark low voice. He goes, hey, this is Billy Sheehan. All of a sudden, this is Billy D. Williams, Colt 44 malt liquor or whatever. And I go, yeah, man, what's going on? So the two of us, we made a couple demos, and we were looking for players at the same time, but we went around L.A., we were hoofing it, and went to every record company to try to get a deal, and eventually we got Paul Gilbert, who was just a kid then.
Right.
He was in a band called Razor X, and then we got Pat Torpey, who had did a stint with, believe it or not, the Knack.
Hey.
Wow.
And he played with Pat Torpey's like a not a multi-pro. What am I thinking? He's like the Swiss Army knife of rock.
Right.
Nice.
He can do everything, and he played with everybody. Guitar player, singer, handsome cat. Anyway, the four of us, we got together, we jammed, and I swear to God, it was, lack of a better word, a sillier word, magical.
Right.
It was. So in 8 days, we wrote our first album.
Wow.
And we decided, okay, we were looking around for names, and we had Mr. Big was, when I first heard it, I thought it was kind of silly, but I knew that, man, something like that would look good on a T-shirt.
Right.
And it felt a little pretentious, but all the crappy names before it made it sound, when I first heard it, I was like, I don't know, and then a bunch of crappy names came in, and then after that it was like, oh my God, it's like Led Zeppelin to me now,
Right.
And the names were like Mars Needs Women. I wrote this really poofy thing. There was a song called My Kind of Woman that was on our second album, but I had it, and I had a lyric in it called Magic to Burn, and I go, how about Magic to Burn? It was like, that got shot down immediately. And Red House, which we were Red House about a dinner at a Chinese restaurant for about 2 hours, and then that got thrown to the wolves.
Right.
And then there was a bunch that, oh God, there was another one, Wild Blue Yonder. How about that? No, nobody knows that. That's the stories that I shouldn't be telling.
Oh, we got an exclusive here.
Right out of the mouths of babes. Right out of the Mr. Big mouth. Anyway.
Yes.
But I have to say, though, you said something, though, that I find really interesting, that, even bands today, it's still very common how, if a band is arguing over what the band name is, eventually they just go, what would look good on a t-shirt?
That's true. I mean, I know you've heard it many, many times, but how Mr. Big actually came to fruition. How about that word? Does that maybe sound smarter?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fruition. I know. Okay, who's getting hot here? So Pat Torpey, our drummer, was looking through albums and titles and all that kind of stuff. And we always, when we first got together, we talked about our influences and how there was a connection, that we all like British invasion blues rock kind of bands, like Humble Pie and the band Free with Paul Rogers, and a band called Spooky Tooth, way before your time, a band that Billy really loved, and then American bands like Grand Funk, but more blues-oriented rock and roll,
right?
And specifically Free. We all loved Free, and because it was a great rock and roll band, and it had a singer that had kind of a bluesy, soulful voice. Me, that would be me. I'm the Paul Rogers person.
Right.
I'm Paul Rogers stunt cock in the band. Anyway, so Pat was looking through the albums, and he was looking at a Free album, and the last song on one of the records, which I think is Fire and Water album, I think, is a song called Mr. Big, and he brought it up, and it was one of the first ones. It was like, nah, but then it became cooler.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break to listen to a clip from Gotta Love the Ride by Mr. Big, but we will be right back.
I've been lying on the red, trying to do it just better. Gotta find my way again. If it takes forever, reaching out of reach, time is in a big hurry. The struggle's under my skin. It's not the taste of things to come, but the journey that you're on. Oh, you may never get where you think the road's going, but the key to paradise, you gotta love the ride.
And I wanted to ask you, now that we know about the band getting started and getting going, when did you decide that being a singer was exactly what you wanted to do? It wasn't going to be being a bartender who only makes Colorado Bulldogs. You wanted to be a singer.
You're funny.
By the way, one of the first drinks I had to make, I just finished bartending school, and Dan was like, you have to make me a Colorado Bulldog. So cute.
Yeah, I don't think I might have tasted a Colorado Bulldog before or after I puked. Anyway, yeah, it's like very sweet kind of drink. It doesn't, it sounds like it would really, knock you down a peg, but it was like, give you a headache. The question about singing. Yeah, my father was a drummer.
Okay.
In a 1940s swing band.
Ooh.
And he played with a lot of popular artists back in the day, like Doris Day and a group called the Four Aces,
Nice.
which had a hit. It was called Three Coins in the Fountain. I'm sure like your listeners would totally run to iTunes to listen to that one, or whatever. And it's a beautiful song. When you hear it, it's a gorgeous song. It was a hit, and my dad played on stuff like that. And those drums got passed down. I was the oldest son in the family, so I go, man, I'd love to be a drummer. And so I was a drummer in a bunch of groups, and I remember a singer. It was another bad name. No, it was called The Buzz. B-U-Z-Z-Z-Z. I know.
Wait, did you say it had 4 Z's?
Or 5, depending on the mood, on the
Depending on the mood,
state
yeah.
we're in.
You could just add C's. That's nice.
So just as the night got on and on, it just started adding more Z's to it.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. It's basically the emotional state that you're in, Z's, just whatever, anyway, so the singer didn't show up, and I end up doing sort of drummer singer thing, and it's one of those things where you pat your hand on your head and you rub your belly, and I just couldn't do it.
Oh my God!
I tried, and then I was starting to really get into the singing, and the singing just seemed a lot more easier. I was a terrible drummer. My dad was great, and he was kind of an MC as well, and I might have got some gifts for gab or talk too much from my dad, but that's what I got. And from my mother, my mother was a singer, but not a professional.
Okay.
Wow.
And so I gravitated more towards singing. It felt a lot comfortable to me, and I don't know why. It just clicked.
It just came more natural.
It became natural because I sucked, and I really hated carrying that bass drum up 5 flights of stairs to the practice hall.
Oh, yeah.
I love that you pointed that out because that's such a thing too. Everybody's so jealous of the singer. They're like, you don't have to bring anything, just a mic, and you're good.
Well, and I like how I talk to people that, play different instruments, and I go, what are the good and the bad things? And every guitarist is like, well, I love playing shows, it's a hassle to carry the equipment, but we do it because we love it, and I've heard that's the same with a lot of bassists say the same. Every single drummer goes, oh, worst thing, setting up.
Yeah.
Carrying all that shit to all the shows, it's awful.
It's true. At the time, and I grew up, I was a really skinny kid. I wasn't like, I look at drummers that I play with and like Pat Torpey, who was a physical war horse type, just a machine. And
right.
I just couldn't do it. I was just, I was out of breath playing one tune.
Right.
Right.
No, speaking of drummers, Matt Sorum said that he did the Power Rangers theme, and I just learned that you sang on it. You sang on it. I cannot believe that. I cannot believe that you were like in that one. I was so surprised. Like I was surprised when Matt Sorum said he played drums, and then when I heard that you were the singer on it, like really, that's awesome. How did that come about?
For the people that loved that like the animation people or the, kids kind of stuff, I was like, I did it for the kids, mate, right? and then the people that, were down clowners, I'd go, and 10 grand. Okay. But yeah, it was me, Matt Sorum, this guy named Tim Pierce, who was a session guitar player, and he played with a lot of great artists. And then no relation, this guy, oh God, what was his name? Oh God, it killed me. But it was all these great musicians. And Ron Nevison, who produced, believe it or not, Physical Graffiti, Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
And then like later on, all the great records by Heart and a band called the Babies, back in the day. Anyways, he was an amazing producer. So we had these big guns, singing, doing Power Rangers. But it's so funny to talk about Matt Sorum because I don't know if he was thinking that it was funny, but we laughed anyway. But we did 2 takes of Go-Go Power Rangers, and trust me, to this day I've never sung the words "the ability to morph and even up the score" ever. Since that day, you know what I'm saying? And this is funny because, so we did 2 takes, and then this is the days before Pro Tools, so we had to kind of cut tape and splice it together. And so we made like one song out of these 2 takes. And Matt Sorum, straight face and all, goes, "Hey man," and I can't do a great Matt Sorum, but he goes, "Hey," but he was like something like, "Hey man, we're never going to be able to pull this off live." Right? and we're looking at each other. The band was like, "Oh, we're never fucking doing this. What are you nuts here?" And he's like, "We're never going to do this live, man." It was the funniest thing I ever heard. And that is a story that I've kept in my little magic bag of tricks for years.
But come on, do your kids though know that you are the voice of Go-Go Power Rangers?
Oh. When I did have children, and I have twin boys.
Aww.
Yeah, their names are Axel and Slash. No, I'm kidding. Wouldn't that be ironic?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But when I had the kids, and they were like, we have videos of them going, "Go Power Rangers," that thing, and it was so freaking cute. And then to open their eyes, like, that's Daddy. That's Daddy singing. So in my house, and when they were like 2, 3, 4 years old, it was Go-Go Power Rangers was bigger than To Be With You in my house.
By the
I
way,
know. That's okay.
that's so cute. I love, though, that I lived in Vienna, Austria for like 5 years, and to be with you and Wild World, and this was, by the way, back in 2004 and 2000, like till 2010, it was still played all the time there, like all the time. Wild World and To Be
Right.
With You. So like the 90s are still there, so it's okay. Like, so you're still huge with those hits. Can you imagine when they actually get to where you are now?
Yeah, that's frightening, though. I mean,
Also, I love
to even put. I love that they played that stuff, but that To Be With You, yeah, that's it was. That's a Mr. Big tune. You know, the weird thing about this, I'm not getting huffy over it because I love kids, and I love the whole cartoons and animation, and I'm a kid at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And when they asked me to do the Power Rangers, I was like, oh my God, yes! I was so excited about it. Right? So when one of our tours, which I think, I don't know when it was, one of our tours, we get our tour book, and it has Mr. Big, and it has all these great pictures and stories about the band. And on the back cover is this big ad for Power Rangers movie.
No.
Yeah, and like I was going, oh, look at that. That's awesome. And then I look at the other three guys, and they're like, nobody knows the trouble I'll see, you know.
Nice.
Nobody. Sorry. Swing low. Sorry, man. I'm totally.
But speaking of these opportunities, though, I wanted to ask you, what are things that you have found over the years are things that really have worked for you, and things that haven't worked so well in terms of getting your music out there, getting your name out there, things like that.
You know exactly what I'm going to say. You're funny, Dan. You're like step on that square peg in the middle of the room. It just happens to be a trap door. Wow. Okay. Well, all right, Dan. I'll play along. Yeah. That's just. Well, when the record companies and kind of all pretty much dropped us, and the musical climate, like I've said before, completely changed. Mm-hmm. We were sort of in charge of our own destiny.
Right.
And I'm talking about Mr. Big, but I'm also talking about myself because I had solo deals and I had a record company involvement and all that. And then when all kind of went to the way of the dodo bird or whatever they say, to the wayside, but nobody says that. My parents would say that. Nobody would get that. Okay, but anyway, I digress. Anyway, so what would I do? Well, I do these acoustic tours, and my wife hates the name, but I call it the Endless Mama Needs a New Pair of Shoes.
Nice. Best description ever.
I play all over, everywhere. And I also do this thing where it's kind of like the Chuck Berry kind of way, where Chuck Berry would just bring his guitar and he'd show up at a gig, and a band had already learned 10 or 20 of his songs, and then he'd play with this band that he just met, kind of like a blind date, and get on stage and play a couple weeks,
Right.
And I did that, and I did it all over the world.
Wow.
So I had this pickup band situation, I had the acoustic thing. I joined a rock opera in Germany called Really? Is that genuine? Is that a genuine ooh? Like,
rock opera. That sounds
seen a firework
awesome.
for the first time? Is that?
Yes, that sounds rock opera. It sounds awesome.
Okay. So I joined this rock opera called Avantasia, and it was they didn't have like a woman with metal breasts and holding a lightning bolt or anything like that, or the laser lights and Trans-Siberian Orchestra style. It was more this guy Tobias Sammet was sort of the brainchild. He was a singer. He's the singer of the group, and he enlists great musicians, and he has like 6 or 7 singers from different countries, and he basically sing his music and lyrics that are. And this particular record was kind of heaven and hell with a concept. Okay. And we played all these huge gigs. I mean, like the least amount of people was 25,000 people.
Wow.
Just recently, we headlined Wacken Germany, which is like the biggest heavy metal festival in the world.
Damn, wow.
And we headlined for 90,000 people.
Jeez.
And it was amazing. It was truly amazing. The next day, I went to Belfast on the endless Mama Needs a New Pair of Shoes acoustic tour
Right.
and played for 60 people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'll do that. Now, hopefully you get what I'm talking about, and we're done. But I did this other thing in Japan. I did like 3 or 4 albums worth, and the Japanese, which, you know, are friends and all that, but like Sony Records, Sony Japan contacted me
Right.
and wanted me to sing songs that were, this is how it was proposed to me too. They wanted me to sing songs that were made popular by women, pop stars, J-pop stars, who sold millions and millions of records, and they wanted to have like a English speaking or an American rock star represent these songs, you know, and it would keep the music, but it would be translate, you know, it would be lyrics translated to English.
Did they
And I like
lower
it-
it for you? Like, meaning, did you have to sing it as high as those singers, the women?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, full on. I had to tuck them up. We were riding high. It was like, anyway, yeah, and some of the cases, but then some of it was like, it was pointless to try to be like like an alto, and also what was happening was I was singing these songs, but it was like my interpretation, like my male perspective
Right.
of these songs. So yeah, no, I wasn't uncomfortable singing this shit. But we took these songs, and if you know anything about J-pop or lyrics like that, I mean, oh my God, every song is like heartbreaking, and like, you know, the guy leaves the woman holds a candle in the window for him to return. He's been married 5 times. He'll never come back, but she's still waiting for his return.
Right.
And that's the kind of lyrics we're talking about, with 6 different choruses, 5 different lyrics. I mean, it's just terrible. So we had to write what we felt like, we got a synopsis of what the Japanese lyrics were about. And my partner and I, this guy Andre Pessis, we've written together for years, we wrote all this American or English words to it. Anyway, it was hard. It was really crazy hard, and it was fun. It was fulfilling because it was mellow stuff. I mean, the first album was kind of mellow, one of them was kind of turned into a covers album. The fans actually, the Japanese fans, wanted to hear American and British type songs. They were hits made by women as well. And it was like Hero by Mariah Carey and Beautiful by Christina Aguilera.
Whoa.
And it was actually really cool because I turned Hero into kind of a rock song.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, you can hear that stuff. It's not, I'm not, part of me feels a little cheesy, but I killed it. I killed it. I actually, I mean, believe it or not, there was one song by the Carpenters, and it was a song called Superstar, which lyrically it's actually a really cool song, and I just nailed it. I nailed it. I made it my own, and I really had a good time doing it. But that's not the part that I feel uncomfortable about. The part that I feel uncomfortable about is that when they propose this to me, I go, yeah, sure, I can do it. It's a challenge. I'll do it.
Right.
And then they go, we'd like to call it Mr. Vocalist.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know how old you guys are, if you ever remember seeing these commercials for Mr. Microphone, but I totally went, when it's like, hey, we'll be back to pick you up in a moment. You know, they got the microphone. It's like, oh my God. I was just, and I'd already signed the contract, you know.
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, really, Mr. Vocalist? I mean, obviously it's a play on Mr. Big, and then, I'm a vocalist. Some guy, there was probably 10 people in a room going, what should we call it? God.
Could you imagine that conversation, though? Just, picking random things, and then, I don't know, I feel like we keep going back to this Mr. Vocalist thing.
Oh, man. And I mean, I did But I mean, there's you can hear songs out there somewhere on the internet, and the videos were like me and I was all dressed up in a suit and got my hair all pressed. It was cheesy, but in a weird way, I liked it because when Mr. Big did a tour in 2011, we did like 10 months all over the world, but we were in Japan, and all these young people started coming to the shows. And like some of the young people didn't even know who Mr. Big was, but they knew themselves a Mr. Vocalist. And it was like, who am I to look a gift horse in the mouth, So,
nice.
So yes, so Mr. B and Mr. V are in the house.
Well, speaking of fun and challenging moments, we actually have a new challenge for you today because we are up to our segment, the Question of the Month. So in this segment, we'll ask our interviewees a new question every month, and they have to think of the funniest answer that they can come up with. To our listeners, write in your questions on our Facebook at facebook.com/Entertainment Drive-Thru and our Twitter at eDrive-Thru, and we just might use it as the question of the month. Now, Eric, are you ready?
Let me think. Tick-tock. Okay, yes. Let me take a deep breath. I'm ready. Let's rock.
All right. So question is, what do you think Superman dresses up as for Halloween?
Nice. Lois Lane.
Lois Lane, all right.
Oh my God, we have not gotten that. That sounds awesome.
Now,
why not? I mean, he's in touch with his manhood. Please.
He wears underwear outside. I think he could pull a dress.
Yeah, exactly. He has nothing to hide here.
Right.
See, but now what would happen, though, if he showed up to a house and someone recognized that it was him, dressed as Lois Lane?
Well, okay, in my bizarro world, what would I think? Or
right.
In real life, what I think? In real life, I'd probably dial 911, but I don't think. I think they would say they would invite him in. They go, "Can I hang your coat and your purse up?"
Actually, I feel like nowadays he would actually be respected in real life, because I mean, everyone is final. I say that the world is finally maturing and allowing people to be gay, which should have been done a long time ago. But I think nowadays they probably would have thought he was just helping out.
But would he wear the cape though?
I've had political questions that I was uncomfortable with, but this one I'm not uncomfortable at the least. This is right up my alley. Exactly. First of all, Superman, if he is gay or was gay or thinking about being gay, should have led the parade. You know
yes, he's already dressed.
Oh, he definitely would.
Yeah, that should be the new. That should be the new spokes. I don't know. You fill in my blanks.
Yeah. And would he then be wearing the Lois Lane with the cape, or would he wear his own costume?
I think he would be wearing Lois Lane underneath his Superman costume.
Yes!
Because, it's a personal thing.
He should, yeah.
So instead of going to the phone booth to switch to Superman, he goes to the phone booth to switch to Lois Lane.
Yes.
Nice, good. You guys have got a whole new comic.
Exactly.
The whole new twist.
Hey, run with it, kids.
Yeah,
I'll back you up.
Right. All right. Well, getting back to the interview, but thank you for that. That was great. That was great. Now I wanted to ask you actually, along the way, what has been some of the best advice that you've gotten?
I don't know. Everybody gives advice, man. Opinions are like,
Everyone's got them.
I'm kind of tired of advice. I just kind of lost track. Everybody, and it's my big, I always go, what do you think? I remember years ago, Robert Plant came to a show in England, and our drummer Pat Torpey played with Robert Plant for a little while.
Nice.
And Robert came, and this is a long, long time ago. This is the days of Wayne's World where I actually dropped to my knees and went, "I'm not worthy,"
Yes!
Yeah.
I did the same
man,
thing.
I'm that guy, man.
Dude, when
So-
Alice Cooper spoke at our graduation, I did that. I'm not going to lie. I went on my knees like, we're not worthy.
Exactly.
You have to.
Yeah, exactly. She'll always remember me for being the weird dude I am,
Yeah.
So I was kind of under the weather, and I asked Robert, I go, God, what do you do, when you're feeling sick? I mean, I had a blanket over my head. I was doing steam, and he came in the room, and I looked like shit. And I think I just played the gig, and I said, what do you do? And he goes, just look good. I don't know. He goes, yeah, look, he goes, when you ain't got that, just look good. Just hold your head up and just, strut around like a peacock. That's what I do. Anyway. And same kind of thing I asked Rob Halford from Judas Priest, and he didn't give me like any advice. It was just kind of like, I think I said the same thing. This my insecure singer thing, and he just goes, "Shut up and just buck it up." Just buck it up, you Nancy boy, go.
Nice. But I think that's good advice, though. And I mean that is a good point, because a lot of people, anyone who goes on stage doesn't have to be a singer. I mean, everyone has that moment where they think, how do you do it sometimes? And it's tough, but, the truth is there really isn't a single answer for it, I guess.
It's amazing, though. I had that, too. Like, every time I'm sick, I'm able somehow to go up on stage and sing. I don't know how. I can barely sing. Like, I can barely talk. But
every time Anna
there.
gets sick before a show, I always know this is going to be the most killer show for her, because somehow she channels that energy while she's sick, and she goes, you know what? Screw the cold. I'm going to do this. And she just destroys it. But then when she's not sick, it doesn't go that well.
Because you don't have to, like, you have to put double the thing on it. You have to put double the energy into it. I think that's why it's such a killer. Otherwise, it's just normal, apparently. I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly about singing and how you keep it together. For me, problem is I don't listen to myself. Mm-hmm. When I talk to myself. But what I'm trying to say to myself is that I need sleep. Mm-hmm. Sleep is the key. If I can get, and even like the nappy kind of thing before the show, mm-hmm. Sometimes I can't do it because I just talk too goddamn much to fans and hang out outside and not taking care of myself. I should be in there like sleeping. And also, there's one thing about drinking. You can drink. Mm-hmm. You just can't drink the day of show.
No.
And then after the show, it's got to be a little moderation if you got a show tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But after that show, there's a day or two off. This is like a day off and a travel day and a day off. Hails to the yes. It's like belly up to the bar, boys. And I'm singing Old Lang Syne, and it's like July, and then cigarettes. That's a no-no. That's it. I did smoke for a while, not a lot. I'd be like, I'd smoke like a pack a month. But when I did, though, I always felt terrible. But that's kind of a trifecta. But like the first thing, the sleeping is the key to your survival, mm-hmm. vocalists, Mr. Vocalist and Mrs. Vocalist out there.
Nice.
We hear you. So, tell us about the new album from Mr. Big. We're super, super
I was going to
excited.
say, you cut me off. I was actually just going to ask you that.
Yes, we wanted to end it with the Mr. Big announcement that you have the new album out.
Yeah. It comes out like any day, any week now, and it's, the stories we could tell, and it is chock full of rock, which sounds like the radio thing to say, but it's got like this blue tint, this blue haze. It's got a taste. It's got like a heaping helping of blues in it. This is kind of the first record and the method of my madness. The time that actually we have like sort of a thematic record. It's it's blues rock all over it. It's just like painted blue. I don't know what else to say. Anyway,
Right.
but it's really a great rock and roll record, and the four of us worked really hard on it. And we had this thing in our band where when we first got back together in 2009, we said, let's make everything painless and let's work at our own pace. Let's not have any record company involvement. Let's keep it painless.
Right.
And so after 2011, when we did the 10-month tour, we kind of burned out, and everybody wanted to do other projects as usual, and we were like, yeah, open to that. Mm-hmm. But then yours truly broke all the rules after a couple of years. I went, oh my God, my endless Mama Needs a New Pair of Shoes tour is starting to get a little old. I need to play with my brothers again. So I started gathering up all kinds of riffs and ideas, or what we call it sniglets. Mm-hmm. Like ideas that actually, we call it sniglets. Other people would think sniglets would be like dog food. But like, sniglets, S-N-I-G, shit. You could write it S-Y-G, S-Y-N, basically spell it like Skinner. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, ooh. And we came up, I basically was a riff collector over the years, and I picked out and this is all stuff that we had written, but I picked out all the sort of blues, rock, British, soulful sound that we were influenced by in the beginning of our band. So,
Okay.
And so here it is, and to me, I said this before, but this is the music that we kind of threatened to create, long time ago. We always, our band always had a lot of diversity, but this one is a little bit more thematic. Anyway, you're talking to the singer, and that's how I feel.
So, I've noticed that like with your albums previously, they've all kind of had, you've always had that Mr. Big sound. Is this going to be comparable to the other albums, or are you saying it's going to be completely new?
I think it's got a little piece of each album because it's Mr. Big, and it's just the way it is. But I felt like the records we've done, we always used Lean Into It as a blueprint or a template.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't think this was the case in this record.
Okay.
So it definitely, it does kind of stand alone, I mean, I'm not trying to say it for novelty, or I think I'm just saying for shits and giggles. No,
Right.
I'm saying it more for, I never even thought of it. I just basically I made it. I didn't want to do that. We always tried to recreate, or not recreate, that's not the right word. We always kind of used Lean Into It as like, oh, what would Lean Into It do? What would
Right.
Jesus do?
Right.
And, yeah.
No, but have you felt the lyrics change a lot I know they change a lot with each album, but also with age and experience and like having kids and all this stuff? Does that factor in, or does it just, you go back to basics?
Is that what people who writes like that shit? Is it like you two writing that stuff? I mean, like, what old rock and roll bands is writing about age and kids and stars and boo-boos?
I swear, because Dave Grohl was saying that in an interview, that because I like after having kids and all that stuff, that like not lyrically it changed, but it sort of makes you think. I mean, it changes you, so thus the lyrics change.
No.
Hell no. Okay, see, then we got the answer.
I'm a dreamer. Like, I love my wife and I love my kids, and I would love to write something, candy coated, beautiful. But no, man, I'm a dreamer. I like going back, and everything's like a movie in my head.
Nice.
And I like writing about religion and satire and politics and sarcasm and like tongue-in-cheek kind of songs and stuff.
Right.
But there are a couple songs about my family, my wife, and I'm not. No, man, I'm not over the hill and like a positive message for my children. No, I'm not doing that. It's still rock and roll, There's guidelines. There's guidelines, man.
Yes, you have to follow the guidelines. You have to keep it rock and roll.
Well, unfortunately, we are getting down to the end of our interview. But before we go, where are places that our listeners can find out more information about you and your band?
You can go to ericmartin.com. You can actually email me, ericmartinband@aol.com.
Okay.
I have a Facebook page, and Twitter, Twatter, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I've been calling it Twatter for a long time, just to be unique and just because I'm weird.
Nice.
Yeah, all that stuff. I mean, just check it out. I mean, you can find me. I'm everywhere.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. It's really been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for more information on Eric Martin, Mr. Big, and the podcast, go to entertainmentdrivethru.com and subscribe on iTunes. Like and follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter and Instagram at edrivethru.
This is Eric Martin from the band Mr. Big, and you've been listening to Entertainment Drive-Thru.